Good afternoon, members. We're going to start this now. Okay. Welcome to our October full council meeting. And I will now invite John to take the summons, attendance, and apologies for the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you are summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the council, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically here in the council chamber, Guildhall, Derry, Wednesday, the 23rd of October at 2 o'clock. Starting with the roll call, Alderman Cook.
Online, John.
Alderman Guy.
Online, John.
Alderman Hussey.
Aye.
Alderman Carrigan. Alderman McMorris. Apologies received from Alderman Middleton. Alderman Montgomery.
Apology also.
Alderman Wilkinson. Councillor Jason Barr.
Here online, John.
Councillor Lillian Barr.
Yeah, John.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs.
Shaw, John.
Councillor Boyle. Councillor Clark.
Sure.
Councillor Cusick.
Here, John.
Running late, John. No, it's there. That's great.
Councillor Deeney. Councillor Devine.
Sure.
Councillor Donnelly.
Shaw.
Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
Shaw.
Councillor Gallagher.
Shaw.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
And Shaw.
Councillor Heaney.
Shaw.
Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson.
Shaw.
Councillor Leonard. Councillor Logue. Councillor McDade. Councillor McGinley. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris. Councillor O'Farrell. Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Neelis.
And sure.
Thank you, members.
Okay, members, agenda item 3 is on broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeating viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to our attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request for to speak. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website. Okay, I have a couple of members who have contacted me on chairperson's business. And I will bring you in based on the way you contacted me, but I do have 2 items myself. And one of the item is about an exceptional event that I attended recently, which was organized by some exceptional women. And I just wanted to really commend those women and put it on record, because the event was on Menopause Awareness Week. And I do know we have a motion coming up shortly on that, and we'll get time to talk about it. But on Friday, the 18th of October, I had the honor of hosting a menopause awareness event at the Guildhall. And this event was organized by Bruna McMillan and supported by Sharon Doherty of St. Columns Park House, Lynn Connolly of Foil Food Network, Jane Quigg of Dove House, and our very own Councillor Aisling Houghton in her role as Bogside and Brantywell Health Forum. I really think the women came together to respond to a need in our community, and their leadership and commitment in this work needs to be recognized. I wanted to make sure that I put that on record today, because so many of the women that attended that event mentioned that the information shared was, some of them was the first time that they had There are women in that room who are going through menopause. Others came to support others, and they know that it is a journey that all of us as women are going to go through. And I think that was a very informative and invaluable event. And I just really wanted to commend those women here today. Okay. My second chairperson business is on regarding the Mayor's Christmas program. As you may all have seen in the email sent on the 17th of October, I am inviting all of you to nominate members of the public from your constituencies to attend the Mayor's Community Christmas Party, which we are hosting on December the 1st from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Guildhall and St. Pat's Hall, Strabane on Saturday, the 8th December, from 2 to 5 p.m. And to all the members who have already responded, thank you very much. And please, those who haven't, we have until the 1st of November to respond. It's just an opportunity really for you to connect with your own constituents and put forward names of those who you think needs to be recognized or who want to celebrate with us or what we want to celebrate them for. Christmas is a very difficult time for so many people. So we just want to put some smiles in people's faces and recognize them. So please respond to our request. Okay, now members, we have Councillor Raymond Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to offer my condolences to the McDermott family and Chloe McGonigal on the death of Katie McDermott, who lost his life after an assault in Ballymagorry on 6th of October. Katie is also a cousin of Councillor Jason Barr, and I would just like to request that the Mayor write a letter of condolences to the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, that will be done. Thank you. And I'm sure all members here will be very happy for us to send our deepest condolences to the family. Thank you for bringing that up. The next member who contacted me is Councillor McDade, and you have 2 items.
Thank you, Mayor. Both items are actually relating to children. The first one is relating to a motion I raised a few months ago about QR codes in hospitality sectors. You very kindly hosted representatives from Angel Eyes NI and RNIB last week in what was a really enjoyable and informative meeting. And during that meeting, we learned about VR training that's available via Angel Eyes. I'm just wondering if there's something that could be considered for council staff and elected reps, given that we are trying to become a visually aware city and district. I think it would be very useful and insightful. And I know a few of us had some specs last week to mark, or 2 weeks ago, to mark World Sight Day. And this is just a kind of more extreme version of that, and it would just formalise the training a wee bit. So just wanted it to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yep.
I had to-
Definitely consider. Yep. Your next item?
Yeah, thank you. The second one is about World Children's Day. That's on the 20th of November this year. And the purpose of World Children's Day is to promote and raise awareness of children's rights and improving children's welfare worldwide. With that said, I'd just like to take the opportunity to highlight the fact that according to official figures from the United Nations, there's around 20,000 children that have been murdered in cold blood since the 7th of October last year. To honour World Children's Day this year, the IPSC is having a vigil that's going to be led by local children here in Derry at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 20th of November. We discuss this and war crimes in Palestine and now in the surrounding countries every month. And the same party vote against the motions and the same party abstained every month. I'm not bringing a motion today, but I am asking that the Council shares IPSC's social media promotion of the event. And I hope that everyone actually can join together in the chamber to accept that it's as important to promote the rights of a child in Palestine and Lebanon as what it is to promote the rights of a child here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to hold my breath, but I do wish that we could take the politics out of this and just come together to recognise that murdering of children, any race, is wrong, and that we as a chamber will support this council promoting the event. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. Councillor Donnelly?
Chair, I'd like to thank Councillor McDade for bringing this up here today. This council run an event only a couple of days ago on in the Waterfoot Good Relations event, and the young people I think there was 52 of them for a wide variety of backgrounds across community. And there was a number of topics discussed. And throughout that, the voting in it, they had a vote on where their position was. And on that day, there was one vote that was 100%. It was the only 100% vote. And the question was regarding the genocide going on in Palestine. And 100% of the school children who voted said that Israel should be condemned more for their actions. And I think that's reflective of society here. And I think that there are some elected reps who are out of touch with that. But of them 52 young people, 100% of them said that we need to be doing more than that Israel needs to be condemned. So I think people should bear that in mind. And that I would like to thank Councillor McDade for bringing this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnell. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and I also want to thank Councillor McDade for proposing this, because I think that the Council should support the IPSC World Children's Day event. We did last year. I believe the Mayor spoke last year, and we had a powerful event in the Guildhall Square. And I wish we were not doing the same thing again this year, but unfortunately we are, because those with the ability to stop this genocide have refused to act and talked about supporting a ceasefire while still arming Israel. And I think that people, it's our own children are seeing this happen because we can't protect them from it. They're actually seeing other children getting slaughtered on a daily basis because they've got access to, television screens. They've got access to social media. It's talked about in primary schools, and there's no hiding that what's happening is going to shape the outlook of a generation of young people all across the world. And what Gary said about the event on Friday morning at the Waterfoot, it was great getting to talk to young people, as it always is. I'm sure that's true for the other councillors and aldermen. But one of the votes as well was, do you think Joe Biden is a war criminal? And 90% of the students in that room voted to say he was a war criminal. When it was who's responsible for what's happening in Gaza, 70% blamed Israel. 20% blamed the United States as the main culprit in what's happening. So I think it's very important that our council, we talk all the time about the international, human rights of the child. We're trying to become a child-friendly UNICEF and child-friendly council. I think it's very important that we stand together against what's happening to children in Gaza and now in Lebanon and possibly elsewhere. So again, thank you to Councillor McDade for raising this.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, Mayor, and again, thanks to Councillor McDade for highlighting it. And from our perspective, we would fully support any role the council can to advertise the event that organised by the IPSC. And whilst doing that, I think it's only right that we acknowledge the role that the IPSC played in organising the event, the rally on October the 7th this year, because there was it created a platform for the people of the city and beyond. They come together and they show their solidarity. They show their disgust at what's happening, not only in Gaza, not only in the wider West Bank, but what's been extended on the Lebanon. It was a platform to allow people to show their solidarity with the people of Palestine and with the people of Lebanon, and they show their anger towards the rogue state that is Israel, that is continuing to break international law, and they ignore the rights of people, and particularly children that are being murdered on a daily basis. So we fully support the event and any role the council can do, they advertise that and encourage people to attend. So thanks to Councillor McDade for highlighting it and bringing it up today.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I think it goes without saying the support of this council when it comes to the Palestinian, we cannot be found wanting. I'm sure that the officers will be able to sponsor that, and also our media team really highlight that, and we will see to that. Thank you very much. The next chairperson's business request is from Councillor Donnelly.
Gormalgit, Mayor. Lisa McGee's How to Get to Heaven from Belfast was filming in Derry for a few days last week. And this is a fantastic opportunity for the council area, its residents, local businesses, and the image. It represents a huge amount of money being pumped into the economy in the city. Hundreds of crew were involved in this operation, most staying in local accommodation, eating and shopping locally, employing local people and providing skills and experience for many young people in a thriving and booming industry. And this included extras, crew, makeup, costumes, hair, sound, film, technical support, logistics and security, etc., bringing much needed revenue into the local economy. Local businesses were remunerated for their compliance for closing for filming. And it's a hugely positive development and an ideal opportunity to portray a profile of the town and district locally and internationally, as we have seen as a result of Derry Girls. The Northwest and the city have many iconic features, including the walls, bridges, Guildhall, Free Derry Corner, mountains and coast, which also provide ideal film locations. We also have a wealth of talented and skilled creative and technical people who deserve local employment in this field. Given that Derry Girls was set in our city and has had a very positive legacy on the economy in terms of tours, murals and all our profile raising impacts, it is a shame that it was predominantly filmed in Belfast. Game of Thrones and all our huge enterprises have also been filmed in Belfast, rural areas and more or less everywhere across the 6 counties apart from this district. We now need to ascertain why this is the case, what impediments there are to bringing more of the much needed positive impacts of this hugely valuable industry to our council area. Film and TV tend to work on a maximum of a 2-week rota in terms of scheduling and logistics. This council area seems to work on a much longer period to carry out logistics such as closing locations overnight, such as the pedestrian bridge and other iconic localities. Unfortunately, there's a perception within this industry that is more difficult and time-consuming to carry out the amenable logistics within our council area to film than in any other areas in the north. And I would welcome any opportunities to address this or ideas on how to resolve this, given the overwhelming opportunities we are potentially missing out on.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. The team will bring a report from corporate to the council to speak about that. Okay, Alderman.
Thank you, Mayor, and can I support Councillor Donnelly in the issue that is brought to us? As was one of the issues with particular regard to Belfast, is how much of that filming is done in the purpose-built studios that exist in Belfast. And that is something that needs to be looked at as well. I'll declare an interest. My own son has just qualified in media production, and looking for work in that area in the western part of the province is needle in a haystack stuff. If he wants to work in the west, but he'd be forced to move east to find employment in what he is qualified in. So the whole issue, and Councillor Donnelly mentioned the areas, particularly around the city. He did mention mountains and coast, I think. I would remind him of the vast rural area that exists south of the city, and a lot of it sort of virgin territory that could be used very well within the film industry, etc. So support the sentiments expressed by Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Boyle.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Again, on behalf of the SDLP, we certainly support the observations that Councillor Donnelly has made. And indeed, Alderman Hussey is quite correct. There are some opportunities in media production and film production in the West, but by far outstripped by those jobs that are available in the film and television industry in the East, and particularly in Belfast. And it is true, of course, it's true. The major production indoor facilities are located in Belfast, and we don't have any here. But it's not. It's something I think that should certainly be explored. There's enormous opportunity. We have a really talented group of people in this city. They're no less able to produce film and television than anybody else on the island of Ireland, and I think it's important that they be given that opportunity as well. And just to give you a personal reflection, actually, I have a brother who works in the film and television industry in Los Angeles. He's been there 20 years. When he left, there was no film and television industry in Northern Ireland worth talking about at all, not even in Belfast. So that's part of the reason why he left. Somebody's got their speakers on. So, you know, things have moved on leaps and bounds for film and television opportunity in the north, but I think it is something, as Councillor Donnelly says, we've got the outdoor facilities, we've got all of that stuff that and more on our doorstep as well. So it's perhaps something that I remember Councillor Cusack some time back actually bringing a motion in relation to this and bringing forward some very useful thoughts and ideas around that. To my knowledge, we haven't progressed with that. We, at that time, I know we discussed the idea that there might actually be a city council officer who would have very specific remit in this area. As far as I recall, there is an officer who has, as part of their job, that remit. But I think we probably, if we're going to be serious about this, we probably need somebody who this is their full-time job. And I think that's something that might well need to be considered. I wasn't expecting this from Councillor Donnelly today, you know, so I appreciate it. But we're definitely supportive of exploring ways of exploiting what is a continually growing industry in the north and across the island of Ireland, you know, and we're not going to be in the job of reinventing the wheel, you know. So I just think we need to be in the game. As quite rightly pointed out, Derry Girls in particular put a spotlight on this place. It's brought absolutely thousands and thousands of visitors to this city who would never have been here, never heard of the place. Actually, and just again to reflect on that, my brother in California, when he's on set chatting to people and people hear his accent, they say, "Where are you from?" And he says, "Derry." And the minute he says Derry, they all go, "Derry Girls." So even in Hollywood, they're paying attention and they know about us now where they didn't know about us before. So let's keep trying to keep that up. Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Boyle. Councillor Cusack.
Thank you, and thank you to Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Boyle. Yes, you are correct. It was a number of years ago now that I introduced a motion to this council. It was widely debated and unanimously supported, and it was for this council to actually change the name of the Department for Business and Culture to Department of Business, Culture and Film. So there was a direct emphasis on the film industry and attracting film and broadcast to this city and district. To my knowledge, nothing has happened regarding that. The last time I chased it up, I was told there was no funds. We were going to develop a portal for support for anybody interested, but there was no proactive development of that idea at a time when we should be highlighting everything that this city and district has to offer in order to make it a location and a desired location, a cheap location, an easy location for people to work in compared to Belfast. We have all that talent. We have all those skills. There was an aspect of that in actually promoting and expanding that skill set within our educational facilities, whether it be the university, whether it be the tech. None of that actually came to fruition, which is really, really frustrating. Every other council on this island, to my knowledge, has film in the title of their business and culture sections, and they have a dedicated site on their council websites with regard to that. So if anybody Googles an area, I know a guy he's actually a scout for locations. He said that's just so blatantly obvious that you should have that as what can we give you, what can we offer you, what does this council area, how can it promote what we're looking for. I actually got contacted by the same gentleman just before the film in there a couple of weeks ago about site locations, and he's coming to me. He should be going directly to the council officers and saying, right, this is what I need. You should be, as Councillor Boyle says, a dedicated officer saying, I can help you with that. So it would be nice to revisit and see why that stopped, why it has never been progressed, why we can't develop Business and Culture Department to encompass film and, as I say, put us on the map as we already are, but we're depending on, one series at the minute, one series at a time. They should be flocking to us and they should have all that information at hand. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Duffy?
Good Mayor, I slept on there, sorry. The Sinn Féin fully supports the request for the report. Having worked in the arts and culture sector and film myself, I know how difficult it is for film and production companies to get locations in Derry, and previous employment even had to come to use our place, so it wasn't ideal either. Just last week, we had a phone call into our office from a production company who was finding it very difficult to get onto Everton to get access. What this ideal location, but just being tied up in bureaucracy or whatever. But we should be more of an enabler as a council for these people and make it more attractive. We have, as everybody knows, an ideal landscape and locations in the city. We have the infrastructure with the airport and the upgrade of the A5. That's just so attractive. So we fully support the report, and we look forward to seeing it when it comes back. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring John to respond to some of the comments that have been made.
Just through you briefly, Mayor, I agree entirely that there is a massive opportunity and a growing opportunity at that. Just to advise that there have been a number of papers brought back with regard to the previous notice of motion. There is a resourcing issue that members have considered through the rates estimates process, but we will bring it back through the rates estimates process this year again. But just to be clear, I'm sort of at the slight disadvantage that Stephen isn't with us this afternoon. But just to be very clear, members, we are working with the industry. If there is opportunity out there, there are officers currently within business and culture, and indeed more broadly across the council officer team, who are supporting activities that are taking place. We can always do more, and we would welcome a dedicated resource to actually avail further of those opportunities. Notwithstanding, Mayor, what else might be said around this issue today, I think it would benefit all of us greatly if we brought a further report to the next available Business and Culture Committee, outlining some of the issues that have been raised today, some of the opportunity that we're perhaps not being able to avail of, some of the perceptions in and around the challenges of filming in this council area, and some of it has got to do with jurisdictional control over certain parts of public space that council isn't necessarily the primary body for approvals. So we'll bring all of that together, but I definitely do think there is a considerable opportunity to ramp up our response to that at this present moment in time. But as always, we do need to apply resource to that. And as always, that comes with at least an initial cost that we need to consider in the round.
Thank you, John. Alderman Corrigan.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And just to support what has been brought forward by Councillor Donnelly, and again, I do recall as well the motion brought forward by Councillor Cusack, and it was supported unanimously at that stage. And you do see the success of Dairy Girls in the city, and how Game of Thrones was used across Northern Ireland, and again, even isn't there a wee programme there's at Hope Street as well as up in Donaghadee filmed, so there is productions across here. So as I say, to try and encourage that and all that comes along with it, then the potential in the business as well. So we're more than content to support what's been brought forward today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, the next item is from Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, and just before I start, maybe on the last issue there, just if it's a resourcing issue, I think that maybe we might look at, we'll not be paying for the airport next year, so there might be a great opportunity there. And I very much welcome that news that has come down the line. On this issue, Mayor, thank you for letting us in. It's in regards to the recent decision around the judicial review by this council with the Department of Economy and a number of companies already in Frontbridge around the issue of licenses. Mayor, firstly, maybe I could start off by saying I think we owe an enormous gratitude to our legal team, Philip, and his team, that I have worked quite a number of years of putting a very diligent, sound argument for our case. And it was great to see that a judge overwhelmingly found in favour of our case. And this case was about protecting areas of outstanding natural beauty. It was about protecting special areas of conservation, protecting special scientific areas of interest. And it was also about protecting the local community. We won. So big congratulations to that. I think that they were found across many things: breaches of habitat regulations, acting outside their authority, inadequate consultation, errors in law. So we won. Not costing us a penny. When myself and Councillor Donnelly brought this motion, we were accused of many things. Wasting ratepayers' money, amongst other things, by a small number in this chamber. But I hope that they now reflect on that and see that a High Court judgment has been made and we were right. So on that, Mayor, I also have a small proposal. And it's a very important proposal because we were found to be lawfully protecting people. But in the interim, Mayor, in the interim, a lot of people have been prosecuted, and some people are facing potential prosecution as regards the whole issues around this case. So with the judiciary and High Court judge finding our favour, I would ask that this council writes to the Department of Justice, asking them to review any past or potential prosecutions with regards to these companies whilst they were unlawfully, when they're acting unlawfully on these licenses. Mayor, I do know of one pensioner, she's 70 plus, and she has been told and informed that she's facing potential prosecution because these people come on their land without permission, drilling, and she refused to let them on, and she's facing prosecution. That cannot be allowed to happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have a seconder for that motion? Okay, Councillor Barr, thank you. Councillor Harkin, you're looking to come in?
I'll second it, and I would just like to take this opportunity to commend Councillors Gallagher and Donnelly and their perseverance in pursuing this issue, despite the flack that they were getting from certain other members of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thank you, Councillor Gallagher, for bringing this in today. I think it's a very, very, very important ruling, and I think it sends a clear message to Dalradian and other companies like them that they can't come here destroy communities, destroy our environment, destroy areas of special scientific interest for profit. So I think it was very important that the council played a role in this. I think we also have to commend all the people on the ground who've been relentless and up against a lot, up against arrests and prosecution, as Councillor Gallagher said. And I think that this is, it shows that we can push back and that we can be effective. There's a lot more to do, obviously. But one thing that would be useful is, from our council's point of view, it'd be useful to have a discussion of the significance of this judicial ruling at some point. And I would be happy if that was obviously officer-led in terms of our legal team. I think Paul and Gary are absolutely right to commend the legal team for the work that they've done. They've properly represented the will of the council and the members here. So thank you for doing that, and thank you to Councillor Gallagher and Councillor Donnelly as well for pushing ahead with this proposal over a number of years.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Jackson.
Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Gallagher for highlighting this, and thanks to our thanks to the entire legal team as well. And just echo the sentiments that have been expressed already. This council has taken a very strong stance in relation to the environmental protections of our sparrows, and we have a proud record of standing up and defending against those that are potentially coming. They do harm, and we would certainly we welcome this judgment, and we have been fully supportive of council's approach in terms of the legal action. But we know that there's still a lot more to do. I know that there is that request from Fermanagh and Omagh that we said we would revisit once a judgment has been made in relation to this. So we would welcome a report coming back to committee in relation to the ramifications and what the potential next steps are, because we have made a commitment to the neighbouring council that we would revisit a decision upon when we received an outcome of this. So this has been a sort of a major step forward in vindicating the action that this council have taken, but it's not the end of the journey. So we certainly look forward to a report coming back as soon as possible, just in relation to what the ramifications of this is and what the potential next steps are. But appreciate Councillor Gallagher for drawing this meeting's attention to what is a significant outcome in relation to this JR. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll go to Councillor Mooney first, and then I'll come back to you. All right. Okay, Councillor Mooney, hold.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Just hold up a minute. I'll go back to Councillor Gallagher first.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe just before this, we get put to the floor, if I can make it maybe a slight amendment. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Maybe, Mayor, if we Department of Justice, right, we asked them to review any past and potential prosecutions with regards to this judgment and leave out the rest.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I think I understand the sentiment of the motion that's coming through in relation to this, and also the request which has come through from other councillors in relation to a paper being brought back in relation to this. Might I suggest that possibly the intention would be to bring a paper into ENR with a copy of the judgment? Perhaps as that we could produce some draft correspondence that members could then consider in relation to the proposal here.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just I'm not on ENR, so there's a. Either you, it's Councillor Barr, it's Councillor Barr, no. Some of the difficulties,
Talking to all members.
can I make a submission into ENR for, as a proposal? Yeah.
Yeah, so members, the motion would stay as it is written on the screen at the moment. It's just the wording of the correspondence then that would be considered by ENR and ultimately then fully ratified by council at the end of the month.
Happy with that? Okay, thank you. Councillor Money.
Thank you, Chair. Just happy to support the motion and happy to support any of the requests that we made. Now, I just had a look at the judgment recently. I just recently acquired it on me, but it's quite a detailed judgment on me. So a lot of it may not actually go to answering the question in the judgment, asking how, on what grounds for prosecution is brought. The JR is a different task, but obviously we would need to seek the confirmation from the Department of Justice as to how any of these prosecutions were brought, under what grounds, under any criminal codes. But happy to support the motion, happy to see what information is brought back, and we can take it from there. But obviously there's a paper that needs to be brought in. We need a bit more information as to how we can advance this motion. But the SDLP is happy to support it thus far. Thank you.
Councillor Donnelly.
I'm good, Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor Gallagher for bringing this up today. The issue of Dalradian and what they intend to do has been debated many, many times in this chamber. But it's not just, what Dalradian have done to the community there has divided it, has led to serious disruption to it. These are people who are looking to rape an area of natural beauty for profit and destroy it. And in order to do that, these big corporations, they're constantly bullying their way. And unfortunately, in this case, there's also evidence that the state, elements of the state have sided with them, particularly the PSNI. And there's evidence that they've been used as almost a private security firm to do their bidding. And what we've seen here is that anybody who resisted Dalradian in their attempts to drill were treated very badly. They were threatened with prosecution. Some of them have been, prosecution has been initiated. And I think that this judgment is a bloody nose for Dalradian. It's not the end of the struggle, but it's the corporate position of this council, and fair play to this council for doing what it did. But there's people out there now, as a result of Dalradian and their activities, are under threat of prosecution. And I think we need to be standing shoulder to shoulder with them people. And that's why I'm happy to support this proposal here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Now, I do not hear any dissenting views on this, so can I take it the proposal has been passed unanimously? Anyone online? Okay, so I'll assume everybody is happy and we'll move forward. May I just add on that, just to echo what everybody has said, and particularly to commend our legal expertise, because I think Philip and his team have done tremendous work on this case. And I got a brief, and I think the diligent work is not just about protecting this council interest, but it has also helped us recover a lot of money in the cost that this could have that involved this case. So I do believe that all of us should really commend the work that has been done by our legal expertise, and actually be very proud of the competency that they have and the confidence that we should have in their work when they do. We're very, very fortunate to have such great minds working with us here in this council that I think others would envy. So thank you very much, Philip, for your work in this case. Okay, the next one now is Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak in this today. I'd just like to remind members and officers that on the 25th of November, a campaign an international campaign for 16 days of action against all forms of violence against women and girls. And this campaign will go on until this particular campaign will go on until the 10th of December. Sadly, we continue to hear regularly about domestic violence, these types of tragedies all year round. And since I lost my own sister in 2017, there have been 42 women and girls that have been killed as a result of domestic violence. And that really is a staggering statistic that in such a short time. Now, at yesterday's PCSP meeting, there was an accountability meeting with the PSNI, and all of us were able to closely scrutinise what the police are doing with regards to domestic violence, road traffic, collisions, drugs, etc. And I would say that the PSNI response to domestic violence, domestic abuse, let's say it's improving, right? But one of the issues is that confidence in actually reporting domestic abuse, coercive control, domestic violence is still a problem. And I believe all of us, and I've said this before in our chamber, I believe men have a crucial role to play in this, to remove the scourge on our society. So whatever we can do to encourage women and girls to report any issues that they're suffering from, there are people there willing to help, and please do your bit to help. But to get back at my point, on previous years our council has been actively involved in promoting the 16-day campaign, and I know I'm asking that they'll do it this year again, and I know it'll take some amount of planning, hence I'm bringing it up at this stage, and I encourage you, council, to get involved with various groups across our city and district who are doing their best as well to promote the whole issue and awareness about domestic violence, and see what we can do all together to reduce it against all women and girls. Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Donnelly.
Chair. And unfortunately, this is something that's becoming all too familiar in this part of the world. It's absolutely deplorable. No excuse for it. It's completely wrong. Any type of violence or misogyny. Chair, and I'm going to again mention the Good Relations event that this council carried out. This again a council activity with young people right throughout the district from all backgrounds, and it mirrors some of the comments the Councillor Leonard just mentioned. When them young people were asked, when it came to gender-based violence, is the PSNI doing enough? 82% of those young people said they weren't, and 84% of those young people said that they don't trust the police. Now, again, this is a council-run initiative program that will tell us how young people, the reflections of young people. And when we see recent programs with whistleblowers and they're telling about the misogyny and the racism and the sectarianism that they're facing within that police force, what hope is there? You know, I no doubt there should be a place for a judicial system and a police force tackling issues of crime and criminality. But unfortunately, we live in a flawed, dysfunctional system. And they need to be doing more to tackle this. But where it needs to happen that young males need to know from a very, very, very early age that this type of behaviour is wrong, misogyny or sexism, and we need to be calling it out in our day-to-day activities wherever we see it happening, whether it be fathers or sons or uncles, or it needs to be tackled at a very early age, and it needs to be tackled within the educational system, because I think that will lay a foundation for this to be tackled properly in order to deal with the issue seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Leonard for raising this. And I think we should, as a council, support this campaign. I think we've done it in the past. We should do it again. And I agree that unfortunately, the problem seems to be getting worse rather than better. And I mean, that is why the North right now is called the most dangerous place for women in Europe, because of the number of femicides that there's been. And I think it is terrifying, particularly for women and girls, what's happening. And I agree with you that we all have a role to play, and men, boys have a role to play in particular. Our council has a role to play in changing this and doing something about it. I was also involved recently in some discussions about misogyny and femicide and kind of violence against women and girls. And it was very much led by women. And one of the things that people were pointing out is that, you know, if we want to tackle the roots of this issue, we have to actually look at like how men are conditioned from very early in their lives to think that violence is a good thing, to think that violence is acceptable. And you look at, and the points that they were making was that you look at like what's happening in Gaza, where you have the violence of the state. You look at the violence of the state here at times, you look at the violence of the state elsewhere, that you know, you can't teach people, particularly young men who tend to join the army, not to be violent when you're telling them it's a good thing, and then expect them then in their domestic life to be different kinds of human beings. And I think that this kind of runs right through our society. I mean, sometimes it's referred to as toxic masculinity, but that there is a way that men are conditioned, and it's also the case that women or men continue to be told that women are inferior in different ways, maybe not in the same way it was said 50 years ago. It's more subtle now, and it's more challenged, but this still happens. So I think that like getting to the roots of tackling misogyny against women is really about looking at how our societies are constructed and why young men in particular are encouraged to think violence is a good thing and a positive thing, and that war and is also part of that. So I think we should definitely back the campaign, but I think that like if we're serious about addressing this issue, we have to look at the roots of the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in, and thank you for bringing this forward. We all know, like in recent months, how violence and murder against women, do you know what I mean, has just rocketed. And it's disheartening to put on the news when you're hearing week after week there's more incidents of women being the victims of domestic violence. And I suppose every woman on here probably is, at some stage, has suffered misogyny in some level or not, you know. And I agree with the sentiments that's been already spoke about, the fact that this needs to be an educational piece. You know, this can't be a norm for men, and a lot of men don't even recognise that they're being misogynistic, you know, towards women. So I do agree, and you know, we will be fully supporting the campaign as well. It is so important, and yeah, I know how important this is to the councillor's personal life too, and just I want to reach out to him, do you know what I mean, and basically say, you know, he is a really sterling campaigner for violence against women and girls, and yeah, and it's very passionate, and it's very apt that we bring it forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor, and apologies for being late. Thanks to Councillor Leonard for bringing this up. I think it's important that everyone stands up and speaks out and says that violence against women and girls is wrong, and does whatever we can to stop it, but also to promote people who are suffering from that violence to come forward, and that it's not okay, and that they don't have to suffer in silence. So whatever we can do as a council to lend our support to the campaign and to push that message out, we absolutely should be doing. And it shouldn't really take a campaign or a particular day of the year for us to be saying that. We should be saying that all the time. And as I think was Councillor Donnelly said, calling this out when we see it is really, really important. But also pulling people up when they're making snide remarks that are derogatory towards women, because that almost allows people to justify it then. And we shouldn't be doing that. We should be calling this out at every single opportunity we can. So I think we should be supporting the campaign and doing whatever we can to help it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Members, just to highlight that the Women's Aid do a big campaign on this day, and we know that the 16 days will run from the 25th of November to the 10th of December. And when I received the request from Councillor Leonard, I asked the team to see the campaign that Council has been involved with. And one of the things that Councillor Duffy did when she was mayor was to light the building to highlight that, and I will be privileged to do that. So we're going to be doing that on the day, and the media team will also promote all the organizations that are working in the community, highlighting the events that are in place, and also working with Women's Aid to ensure that this information is shared. Now, there's also the PCSP. They have a pot of funding that they avail for community groups to apply for. So if there's any groups you know out there, you can really highlight that and they can apply for funding. And it is a very topical issue at the moment. And I have to say, I'm really pleased that the request came from a man rather than a woman, because it is, we normally say this is a male problem, and it is a male problem, and it is really good to see men tackling this issue head on. So thank you very, very much for bringing this up. Okay, that concludes our chair business. Oh, sorry.
Could I just make one final comment on it? And,
Yes.
and I really do thank Councillor Leonard for bringing forward that information today around that 16 days of action. And it is very, very important for us as a council to acknowledge it and do what we can to highlight it. But just as well, we had a PCSP meeting here in this chamber on Tuesday, and the PS and I were here, and we had a very robust conversation there as well around the strategy for violence against women and girls, and how that is being implemented and how that's been taken forward, and how we can improve confidence in our young women in reporting and everything around that. But one of the things that I want to highlight is that the police are running a campaign here locally over the Halloween period, which is a vigilance campaign where they will be out and they will be actively looking at behaviours and for predators to prevent women having to come forward to report. So they will actually be on the streets and will be actively trying to address this, which I think is a very important move forward, because sometimes our young women and girls don't feel comfortable and they don't feel confident in coming forward to report. So I think that's a good step forward from the police here locally. So just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other comments? Thank you, members. Okay, that concludes our chairperson's business. Now back to open business. Item number 6, which is confirmation of the open minutes of the meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Wednesday, 25th September 2024, pages 5 to 38 for accuracy. Members who are in that meeting, please. Thank you. And seconded, thank you. Matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. C395, it's regard to the installation of floodlights at Melbourne Sports Arena. The 2 sports clubs are to be invited in. I'm not sure when that's happening. But I'm sure that those representing the Sperrin area, as well as those in the Derg, will realise the importance of this issue. Given that we had a ladies football team who qualified in the 2nd tier to be promoted to the Premier League in their particular sport, and were prevented from doing so by the facilities that were available to them in Strabane, facilities which folk have been seeking to have upgraded to a suitable level of criteria going forward. One of the issues was not necessarily that, you know, the facilities will be available for the incoming season. An issue is that a team will have to have played for a full season under those particular criteria prior to if they gain promotion, prior to promotion. So there is an urgency in that. And I trust that officials are ensuring that representatives from those clubs will make their appearance with council, either council or the relevant committee at the earliest, because there is an urgency in this going forward. Thank you, Mayor. I have another issue.
And to members, just to confirm, we do have a provisional date set of the 11th of December to receive that deputation and a number of other outstanding deputations.
Happy with that?
Appreciate that. Thank you, through you, Mayor. Item 418, the updated play board report. Again, we know that much progress has been made with regard to quite a few play areas. Sorry, it's on page, no, I haven't got the page number here. I see John flicking through papers there. 418, yeah, page 20. The play board report, quite a few play areas have received very welcome upgrade, and congratulations to all involved in that. But there is still an extensive list of play areas that are in need of attention. And that is the reason that I have urged that we get an updated report from play board on the play scores for those areas. And I'm not sure when that's going to be presented, but I hope it's shortly, because we are looking at finances going forward into next year. References have already been made to the availability of finance, which would previously have gone to the airport. So I think it's important that we realise what is the current state and what is the need and desire and want for improvement within the area of play provision throughout the entire district council area. Thank you, Mayor.
So through you, Mayor, I'm sure Karen will want to comment as well. I think there's no difficulty in bringing in updates on the play condition. What we are doing at the moment, members, as you will know, is we've scheduled a capital working group with members in a couple of weeks' time. We have a capital programme that is currently fully funded, which includes some play areas and will be delivered in the next couple of years. And as part of the capital working group, we are presenting to members the funding strategy that was presented to members at last year's rates estimates, an update to that funding strategy that will be taken forward into this year's rates estimates, and how members wish to proceed with that. So from that will flow then the affordability or other ways of both strategic and community projects, and then members will obviously wish to prioritise those projects which they feel are appropriate. So we're going to try and bring all of that together for you into a discussion of the capital and the combined capital and combined capital and city deed working groups in a couple of weeks, and then subsequently bring it into a governance committee.
With your permission, Mayor, I appreciate the response from the Chief Executive, but it highlights the importance of actually having the facts of what the need is going into that meeting.
Thank you, Alderman. Can I bring you?
Through you, Chair, members, we're looking into trying to get that sorted out as quickly as possible with Playboard. There obviously is a process to go through in order to do that. However, we do have quite a bit of information still available, but we are looking to have that updated as quickly as we can. Thanks.
You more appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. And I've got several items in this section, so if you bear with me, I don't know how long they're going to take, but the first one is C401 and 24, and that's about Gaza. And I just wanted to mention a few things in relation to the motion that we agreed. First of all, we have a call in there that we would write to the Taoiseach, Simon Harris, urging him to immediately pass the occupied, or to ensure that the Occupied Territories Bill would be passed. It looks unlikely that that will happen, which is very, very disappointing, because it's likely there will be an election called. And I think that it is clear that the Fianna Fáil, Fianna Gael government has done everything in their power to avoid taking this step, which would sanction Israel. And that'll be which really speaks volumes about what this government has been willing to do. The second is just there on, we had condemned the arrest of BDS Strabane campaigners by the PSNI for participating in a BDS action. And I wanted to report that I spoke to BDS Strabane campaigners, and the charges against them have been dropped by the PSNI, and which is very important and significant, and that they wanted to thank the council for our support in the matter. And I think it's important because you know, there was an attempt to criminalise this BDS action, and I wouldn't even call it a civil disobedience, because really it's awareness raising, because you're not actually blocking people from shopping, you're not sitting down, you're raising awareness and appealing to the company's owners not to stock Israeli goods. But the police response was very heavy-handed. So the public opposition to the treatment of the BDS activists has actually led the PSNI to see the logic in dropping the charges, which I think is good. And I'm glad that the council played a role. I also want to mention that we also called for the PSNI to drop the charges against Councillor Donnelly and other people who were arrested here in Derry. And to my knowledge, those charges are still not dropped. And so I think that we should continue to demand that the PSNI drop these harassment charges, because that's what they are. And on this, I just want to get it on record that a number of us who have participated in IPSC marches and rallies have been reported to the Public Prosecution Service for participating in what are called illegal marches. And the response collectively from people in the IPSC is to say, we are not coming in for interviews. We have not done anything wrong, and we are prepared to go to court to prove that we didn't do anything wrong, and that people have been absolutely right to take these actions in the face of a genocide. And I think that the truth of that is proved every single day. So that was really just primarily an update about the BDS Strabane campaigners, and also just I think it's important that we acknowledge that the charges against a councillor here have still not been dropped, and they should be dropped immediately.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Okay. The next agenda item is.
Yeah, a few other items.
You have another item?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah. So on it's C416/24, Craigan Reservoirs, Craigan Country Park Reservoirs. We had a discussion in here at the last meeting, and my understanding is that some council officers have had a meeting with some members of the Craigan Country Park Board, and I think that there's a lot of interest from myself and in the public. This is the reservoirs in the Moor, as people probably know, about what's happening. So I have a number of questions and questions that have been raised to me. We agreed on a master plan 5 years ago, or somewhere 3 years ago, and where are we in relation to moving forward with that master plan? We also agreed that the council would take on the overall management of the space and take responsibility for the lease. I would like to get an understanding of where we're at with that now. And the goal there was for the council to be able to take on many of the things that need to be properly funded, like basic maintenance, you know, holes and fences, lights, pathways being opened up. It's also the case that we know that the water level has been dropped significantly. Well, so there's a question now about what will happen next. Like, what is the plan? And given that the water level has been dropped, is it the case now that the planning concerns downstream will move forward? Because that's what this was for. And when will that happen? And what are the next steps? There's been some discussion about the safety of the dam there and about what can be done, which will have an impact on the water level. So there's quite a few questions about both in relation to redeveloping, regenerating that space, which I think is a key space, and obviously the next steps around what happens, because what became the priority was solving the issue of the DFI's concerns about the safety of the reservoirs in order to be able to move forward with planning applications downstream. So I think that we need to have.
I'll bring in John to respond to that before you continue.
Sure,
Do you
sure.
have another item after that?
Sorry?
Do you have another item after that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll let John come in.
Mayor, there's obviously a lot of questions there. I'm not going to deal with them in detail today. What I would say is we have outlined progress to date in previous papers. We're due to bring in another paper. But in headline terms, there were immediate health and safety issues which we have stepped in with agreement of Creighton Country Park to resolve. There are continuing ongoing investigations on site which will address and help us understand what the other potential implications, non-critical implications with regard to health and safety. There's an ongoing conversation in terms of advancing the lease. The master plan was submitted to a levelling up fund application, which, if you recall at the time, wasn't successful and needs to be picked up again at some point in the future. But I think in answer to the various questions, all of those are progressing. We've updated Creighton Country Park Board at a recent meeting, and Karen will be bringing in a full update paper into the next available ENR. I don't know whether it's next month or the month after, Karen, but.
As soon as possible, Chair.
Okay.
You happy with that?
Thanks for that. Yeah, I look forward to the paper. And then, sorry, the next item, Mayor, is C425/24, and that's in regard to the data centre that was agreed in Maydown. And I raised some of the issues at the last full council meeting. And now we have had a letter to all the councillors, the council officers, about the issue from 3 campaign groups, the Environmental Gathering, the Save the Moat campaign, and the campaign, what's the third one? Save Benbrata group. So I think that in that letter, I think that they raise very serious and significant issues for the council to consider. It's not a discussion we're going to be able to have right now because I think that there's too many things to discuss. I think that the only way forward here is that we invite them in that they get the opportunity to speak directly about their concerns about the data centre and about the speed at which the decision was made in terms of planning. But I think that that's the only way to do this justice. So I want to propose that we invite them in for a meeting. And that, a paper prepared by the officers around these issues would be important and useful. But I think that will be strengthened if we can actually have a discussion directly with groups that have some expertise and some ideas about the impact of data centres. So I think we should aim to do that, and probably that would have to be, a special council meeting's fine, or if it's appropriate in the particular committee.
Councillor Barry coming to support the proposal.
Yeah, I support it. I agree completely with the points that Councillor Harkins alluded to and which are contained in the letter from the gallery. The letter contains some very concerning questions which need answered. I'm glad to second the proposal.
Thank you. Members, Alderman Carrigan, is that on the same issue?
Mayor, and just Corinne, in regards to that there, and in regards to the proposal, I have no problem if there's to be groups invited in, but I'm minded that if we make a decision.
Mayor, apologies for interrupting, Alderman Kerrigan. See, before this goes any further, I just want to declare an interest. I declared an interest when this was discussed and decided on at committee. I find that it's important to declare an interest before it goes any further. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank
Mayor, similarly, just before Alderman Kerrigan, if there's going to be a conversation about this at this point, then I also must declare an interest for the same reasons Councillor Jackson, and of course at planning committee, I declared that interest as well. So just advice, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else declaring an
Yes, Chair,
interest?
Plan committee will be declaring an interest as well.
Okay.
I don't think that is read, members of planning committee.
Okay. Yeah, so could we just take that as read? All members of the planning committee? No?
I know these are separate.
Where both myself and Councillor Boyle have declared an interest as commissioners of the board.
As commissioners? Okay, so both planning committee members and commissioners of the board. Anyone else declaring an interest? Okay. Okay. Thank you, members. Alderman Corrigan.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And just, I have no issue if they wish to come in to bring a presentation, but surely today, if we pass this, once we go through the minutes, this decision will be ratified now at full council, in which case then there are issues that was raised in this email in regards to the decision which we've made, and surely that falls us up to them if they wish to take an appeal. But I would have confidence in regards to our planning committee, the officers, and we had a special meeting in regards to this application, that they dealt with the information that was provided and the legislation that is there in order to come to the decision and the recommendation. So I would be content in that regard. So I'm just querying this presentation been had other than just for a presentation rather than in regards to the questions which was raised in the email.
Councillor Donnelly, are you looking in?
Chair, I was looking for some clarified, just again, I'm not very okay with the whole planning thing. I think I would be, but I'm not. See the implications, see there's an item comes before this council and it goes the implications of quality, rural needs, climate change, data protection and that applies to planning too, I assume. Was there any implications regarding the climate change and that or the environment on the application, the item that came through council?
So Mayor, all I could say at this stage is that officers have received the email as well as members have, and officers in the planning team are currently considering what's set out in the email. And in due course, we will draft a response to that email. I couldn't comment on it further at this stage. Don't have the knowledge to comment on it further at this stage. So our planning team and indeed our legal team will be looking at the questions raised and formulating a response to it.
Councillor Duffy and then Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in. Look, I'm not on planning committee, but it is my understanding that every paper that comes before planning committee is a very detailed paper that outlines all the planning legislation around any decision that's going to be made. I think a decision was made, it's being presented for approval. I think that's the space that we are in. This is a key piece of infrastructure for the Northwest. I believe that we talk continuously around regional balance and how we achieve regional balance. And I believe this is another key piece of infrastructure. I think that the decision of the planning committee stands, and that, as it should do, as it was made under the basis of key information that was presented independently to the members of our planning committee. So I won't be supporting the proposal from Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also not on the planning committee, but I'm very aware of this particular application. Before we decide or are asked to vote on Councillor Harkin's proposal, I would like it to be made clear what it is we're actually bringing these three groups in for. If it's to address the questions that were in the email, or is it to talk about the wider environmental concerns that they have? Because those are two very different things. If it's to talk about the questions that they have in the email, this isn't the place to do it. The planning application has been granted. The permission has been granted. There is stages and opportunities for groups who don't like that decision to challenge it. And through this council isn't one of them. So if they're coming in to talk about that, I think we're wasting their time and not providing them with the correct information. There is an avenue there for them to challenge the planning decision made by this council. Or if it's about the wider environmental concerns, I think it needs to be made clear before we're asked to vote on it. Thank you.
Councillor Harkin, do you want to make clear what's
Sure. I mean, look,
coming to do here?
I think that they have, they are making a number of points about things that the council did not look at. in terms of the energy consumption, the impact on water use, what it means for provision of wind farm generated energy, which is we've had Save the Moat in here, and a motion that we passed, and that they're looking at these things together. So I think that they want to actually, in part, raise these things directly with councillors, and I think partly it's education for councillors, because from talking to a lot of environmental campaigners and climate campaigners, they basically are like surprised that this passed so quickly. There was no objections. There was only one thing looked at in regard to the environment, and that was whether or not there could be flooding in the area. So the points that have been made to me seem, very relevant to the decision. And yeah, of course, there's going to be ways for them to challenge it from the outside, but I also think that, like, look, if there's things that councillors haven't looked at, I think that we should be very eager to understand what they are. So that's why I'm proposing that they're given the opportunity to actually come in and address councillors directly.
Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you. I do think that, well, the decision by planning has been made. Unless there's legal intervention, that's where it'll stand as it is. However, with that said, I think that it will do absolutely no harm. I think it can be very informative for all the councillors on here to hear some of the stuff that this presentation could bring. We do have a climate change policy. We do have a lot of stuff around data protection policies and all the rest that goes with it, and rural impact. We have all those policies in place. But are we aware of them all? I'm not so sure. And
Councillor Gallagher, is that not a personal issue then? Isn't it? If you're not aware of the policies that we have in council?
I'm not saying, I'm saying, but I'll give you an example of that, Mayor. Do you see, earlier on, we talked about the judicial review. And when we were talking about that at the time that we were looking to propose it, a lot of people in here were so argument against it. They were very argumentative against it. And then when it came to a court of law, the court of law overwhelmingly found in our favour. So what I'm saying is the presentations can be very informative, and that I would say that if we agree to have this, that all the councillors turn up to hear it, what we can have, and then we can make our own judgments on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Alderman Jose.
Mayor, I'm very conscious of the last paragraph in that item, whereby no objections or representations were made. So now you have people sort of, I was going to use a term, but I'm not. You have people who have concerns. Where were their concerns at the very beginning of this application, which I presume went through all of the public consultation, etc., that is necessary? The Planning Commission decision has been made. I'm speaking as a former member of Planning Committee. It's been made. If there are objections, well, there's the PAC. Let them take their objections or whatever to the PAC. Meanwhile, fair enough. If they want to come in and have a conversation with the councillors about their issues, let it happen. But the planning issue, that's separate altogether as far as I'm concerned. That is done and dusted. Anything further goes through PAC. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Jose. Okay, members, we have a proposal on the floor. It has been seconded. So should we take a vote? Yeah, I'll have John to take a vote on this. The proposal to bring in members of the people who emailed us is the 3 groups, right? To speak in the council, to all the councillors. Do we want to draft the proposal so everybody can be able to see that? Okay. Councillor Harkin, do you want to send it in?
That's going to get very confusing.
Yeah.
Stable lines.
I want a coffee. No milk. Yes, milk. Not finishing at 6 today. Okay, members, we have a proposal on the floor there. If every member would please consider it, and then we go to a vote. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna take a vote on this now.
Mayor, could I ask a question?
online?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alderman Guy,
Yeah, thanks, Mayor.
are you looking to come in?
Yeah, I just want to ask a quick question before the vote. So basically, just to get this right, we're just agreeing to let these people to come in and talk to us, or are they coming in to challenge the decision taken by planning?
I think the proposal says for them to present their concerns regarding data centers and climate change. So
Right.
basically to listen to their views.
Right, I've no issue with that. It's just if they're coming in to challenge the plan, I'm with my colleague on that one, but that's okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, so I'll bring John to take the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Cook,
Abstain, John.
Alderman Guy,
I'll go for.
Alderman Hussey, Alderman Carrigan,
Ian John.
Alderman McMorris,
Abstain.
Councillor Jason Barr,
For.
Councillor Lillian Barr,
For.
Councillor Raymond Barr, Councillor Boggs, Councillor Boyle,
Abstain for reasons stated.
Councillor Clark,
Neil.
Councillor Cusick, Councillor Devine,
Neil.
Councillor Donnelly,
Or.
Councillor Alex Duffy,
Neil.
Councillor Sandra Duffy,
Neil.
Councillor Farrell,
Or.
Councillor Fleming,
Neil.
Councillor Gallagher,
Or.
Councillor Harkin,
Or.
Councillor Hart,
Neil.
Councillor Heaney, Councillor Hutton,
Neil.
Councillor Jackson,
Abstain.
Councillor Leonard,
Abstain.
Councillor Logue,
Against.
Councillor McDade, Councillor McGinley, apologies, Councillor McHugh,
Neil.
Councillor Mooney, Councillor Murphy, Councillor O'Farrell,
Neil.
Councillor Riley, Councillor Tierney,
Or.
and Councillor Anelis. Thank you, members. Mayor, I've recorded 14 for, 13 against, and 7 abstentions, so the proposal passes.
Okay, members, the proposal passes. Councillor Harkin, did you have another item? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Tierney. Okay, members, the next item is agenda item 8, adoption of the open minutes of the following committees. Bi-monthly assurance, audit and risk committee held on Monday, 23rd September 2024, pages 39 to 42 for accuracy. Thank you. Seconder? Proposed, and anyone seconding? Alderman Kerrigan, thank you very much. Any matters arising? Thank you, members. The next is monthly governance and strategic planning committee held on Tuesday, 1st October 2024, pages 43 to 54 for accuracy. Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Seconding? Thank you, Councillor McDade. Matters arising? Alderman Hussey?
It's item GSP 180 or 24, page 46, the very last paragraph. And I suppose it's not so much the item itself, it's more an item a query reference or position on standing orders reference notices of motion without notice. At the very end there, you will see that it's referred to a suggestion. I actually made a proposal that we would invite Dr. Farry and Dr. Carson from the Ulster University Strategic Policy Unit to a future committee meeting. The chair advised that he wasn't accepting the motion, and I was instructed to bring it to full council, which you members will know it's on the run for full council, but I don't see why I should have had to do that. I'm concerned that under Standing Order 16.2, I should have been allowed to bring the notice of motion on an item which was being discussed. It's already happened today at today's meeting. There are some other committees where you will find the minutes where items under discussion have resulted in a notice of motion without notice being considered by a committee. So I'm just wondering, what is the situation of notices of motion without notice? You know, described as pop-up motions. You know, I'm concerned that, you know, I had to bring that as a notice to full council rather than just simply following on a discussion that had happened in committee, allowed to go through as a notice of motion. Now, I know that the chair has ultimate authority. I forget the actual standing order that allows a chair to do that, but at least there should be consistency across all chairs and mayor with regard to how notices of motion without notice are considered. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Just to respond on that, I'll bring Philip to clarify, but any pop-up motion, in my view, is any motion that is brought without any notice to members. We have to give 10 days notice to the council whenever we are submitting our motion. So if a motion has not been tabled through the normal procedures at full council meeting, I will not allow it because that is a pop-up motion. So I will probably
Sorry, Mayor, I want to challenge on that. It's already happened today. There have been notices, motions.
Those are on the items, the items in the, particularly in any of the committee matters arising that is connected to the item, that is all right. But any motion that is not connected to the item, I will not accept that. That's what I am saying. All right. So Philip, you want to clarify that?
Yeah, so members, this is really dealt with in Standing Order 16.3, 16.2, number 3, Alderman Hussey, and the relevant section within the standing order which deals, as you've indicated, on motions that can be lodged without notice, is that the clarification in that is that where a motion arising from the adoption of the recommendations of a committee, now that's not strictly the situation that you had here and that this was arising from the minutes, but it then goes on to say, in the view of the chair, requires consideration by members, the matter will be referred to the relevant committee or the next council meeting. So it is open to the chair, if the chair is of the view that the matter requires detailed consideration, that it should be referred either to the next meeting of the committee or to the next meeting of council. So I think you'd indicated yourself that you were content that it did require the discretion of the chair, and I think that's in and around the complexity of the issue that needs to be discussed at the particular time.
Mayor, I thank Philip for that and I agree with it. But what I'm saying is let's have consistency. Let's have consistency across all chairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, any other matters arising? We have Councillor Duffy.
Yep, thank you, Mayor, for allowing me in, and it's item GSP 181/24. I just thought it would be a good opportunity here as it's the first meeting of full council since we've had a number of really positive announcements around the airport over the last number of weeks. At the GSP committee, we had just heard that the Minister for Economy had got to his feet in terms of the sub-regional paper sub-regional economic plan that he was developing and rolling out. And part of that plan, he talked about bringing the airport into the Department for Economy and the benefits that that would bring to us as a council area. It is something that we have been working very hard on for quite a number of years. The airport board in particular, and I'll reference Alfie and Denise and John and Steve out at the airport itself, have been very, very enthusiastic about getting this over the line, and a lot of work has gone into it. And I know that when the executive was restored, the First Minister was very clear in her opening address, saying that regional balance would be something that would be taken forward by the executive. The Minister for Economy was very clear around the airport, and we have seen actions now coming from that. And we have seen now that the airport will be brought into the remit of the Department of Economy from the 1st of April. But we have also then seen the Minister for Infrastructure, John O'Dowd, who has provided £3 million to the airport to take us up to that point. And I think these are all hugely positive actions that have come from the executive and have shown real intent to the Northwest and to address regional balance. The airport is a key piece of infrastructure for us here. It is key to our connectivity. It is key to our economic development. And I just think that it needs to be noted the amount of work that has taken place around getting us to this point. But also the work then from the executive in showing its commitment. I think that we are now seeing for the first time an airport that is blooming in terms of confidence in itself and what it can achieve. And we're seeing the market respond to that. Even with today, Ryanair has further announced a winter programme which has put on additional flights coming out of City of Derry Airport into Birmingham and Manchester. So I think that we are pointing in the right direction in terms of the City of Derry Airport. And again, just to put on my record, that thanks to everyone who has worked so hard to get it to this point. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Gallagher.
Just on the same subject, Mayor, which would probably be no surprise to anybody in here or anybody that's been in here for 10 years. Since I first got elected, I've put up an argument that central government should be paying for this airport. And I am pleased to say that central government and my argument has prevailed, that now in 2024, that when I was castigated on here about arguing how the ratepayers shouldn't be paying for this airport, I was told, change the record, Councillor Gallagher, change the record, and there's headlines to that effect, right? And people wanting me to keep the head down. But that argument prevailed. And as we move forward, and I'm a man for moving forward. I'm a man for moving forward. As we move forward, right, this council will save a lot of money. The ratepayers may not see a savings in their rates. They may not. But what they will get is better services by this council, pound for pound, of what we're paying for our rates, better services. And as highlighted earlier on, we may be able to take on extra activities like a film director that can bring more money into this town, district, city, rural areas. So I say congratulations to all and the chief executive, because I think that from the outset, he realised my argument, but he couldn't say it on here. He couldn't say it, but I think he realised that it just wasn't adding up. It wasn't adding up to we were paying £3.5 million.
Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations for being persistent. It has paid off. Thank you. Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in relation to GSP 180/24, that's on page 44. In relation to many of the points that were discussed that day, including potential Northwest corridor, and I just want to acknowledge the positive step that there has been from DFI to issue the statutory orders for the vesting of the land for the A5. Yes, well, whilst I will say it may not be positive news to everybody, but in terms of connecting the Northwest economic development and road safety, I think this is a very positive step for everyone, and just to acknowledge, just to see, it's great to see things actually moving on again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Okay, members, moving on to the next item, monthly planning committee held on Wednesday, 2nd October 2024, pages 55 to 64 for accuracy. Alderman McMorris and Councillor Doyle. Matters arising? Thank you, members. Okay, next item is monthly business and culture committee held on Tuesday, 8th October 2024, pages 65 to 78 for accuracy. Thank you. Seconded? Thank you. Matters arising? Councillor Gallagher?
Thank you, Mayor, for that. It's BC 17424, you know, around the free parking days. Mayor, quite a number of business owners have come to me over this last while, and they're highlighting that they are paying a lot of money in parking fees on a weekly basis. Some paying £40 a week, and they multiply that over a year. In Strabane, which is £2,000. These businesses are paying a lot in business rates, and they're struggling to keep their doors open. So this, in order to get parking in the middle of town, it's costing a lot of extra money. So, Mayor, and it's not a pop-up motion, right? But I was wondering, would there be a possibility of business and culture bringing a scoping report forward and saying, you know, around parking permits for business owners that are struggling, that are paying high rates, that we should be looking at in order to sustain the businesses. We have been looking, and this council has been looking at around footfall, and the more businesses that struggle and close, then that footfall is going to get less and less and less. So if there was some possibility of bringing forward a report on that, it would be good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Boggs?
Just very briefly, Mayor, and I suppose to thank officers for the work that they've done in relation to progressing that piece of work following the motion that I had brought. And I'm not saying that Councillor Gallagher's lying. I wouldn't dare. He's a man of moving forward, and so am I. So, but what I would say is some of the points that you know, if businesses are raising them, are the opposite of what businesses are raising with me whenever we engage them with the motion that I brought. Because they did talk about, you know, the accessibility to free car parking within Strabane town and how they encourage their staff to use that, but also the fact that they don't like to see long stay, and that's with themselves and their own staff, but also with customers, that long stay car parking doesn't suit business in Strabane. So while, you know, it would be welcome to see a report in terms of what officers would scope, if you were to hand out parking permits to every business, then that's a whole, maybe 2 permits per business. That's 2 spaces per business that are then being used for long stay, that are stopping customers' flow throughout the town, which then, as officers said in the meeting that Strabane Town councillors were invited to with officers before the paper came into B&C in relation to what we have in front of us now and the 5 free parking days, some of that then would be a juxtaposition to what Councillor Gallagher is asking for. But you know, if we're bringing back a report, more than welcome that, and happy to see what's on it. But I think it's just to be aware of that we could end up then working against what the businesses in the round are asking us for. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Okay. Next item is monthly environmental and regeneration committee held on Wednesday, 9th October 2024, pages 79 to 94 for accuracy. Thank you, Alderman Carrigan. Thank you, Brian. Okay, matters arising? Thank you, Councillor Boggs.
Mayor, and it's under ER 24624, and it was in relation to the DFI update. And one of the areas that was covered was in relation to street lighting. And as the evenings are starting to get darker now, I'm sure most members will have been contacted by people about trees overgrown streetlights and streetlights not working, and everything in that regard. There is an issue that has been raised with me over the last week or fortnight or so, specifically in relation to Melbourne Sports Complex. And I know that there is lighting around there, that some of it falls to the responsibility of council, some of it falls to the responsibility of DFI. But particularly, there is a concern that the entrance itself into Melbourne is particularly dark. and anybody who uses over there and the high volumes of traffic that come in and out of it, particularly in the evenings, there is a safety concern that there are young children darting between car to car and being picked up and left off from activities within the complex. So it was just to ask officers if we could go away and look at what lighting we are responsible for in that area and whether we need to look at replacing lighting that is broken, or if there is room for additional lighting in that area in the interest of health and safety. And in that same vein in relation to Melvin, I just want to put on record and welcome the positive announcement at the start of the week in relation to the £3.2 million investment into the multi-sports complex at Melvin. It's been hard work on by officers, and I think there was times that it maybe mightn't even get over the line. I'm sure Aidan and his team are particularly glad to see that now it is. But just to put on record our thanks to Sport NI for their continued support of it, particularly whenever times got tough with finances and their uplift and their contribution. So thanks to officers once again in relation to that.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. I'm sure officers are happy to do that, so thank you. And yeah, that was a very good outcome for the grant. Alderman Jose?
Yeah, I suppose I should declare some maybe personal interest in this one. 249, the extension of the curbside brown bin service. I noticed the chair expresses thanks to the officers. The latest tranche is, I don't know how far down the line it is, but I know the chair has got, we both live in the same tranche area, and the chair's got his. I asked him, and I'm aware of some folk who have yet to get them. Now this was some time ago. I declared an interest. I'm one of those who hasn't got my brown bin yet, and I'm aware of others who are getting quite frustrated at the length of time that it's taken for this tranche. I understand the rationale of putting 4,000 bins out and the caddies, etc. But when is this tranche due to finish?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Members, we are getting through it as quickly as we can. It's quite a significant infrastructure operation, and a lot of the work is being done by the teams themselves as well. So I will get an update from officers and email members in relation to that to find out the specifics. And as members know, once we finish the current tranche, we will move on then to the very final tranche following that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. And, I do appreciate the logistical issues that are involved, and it's great that it is happening. It's something, as members know, that I've mentioned a few times. In fact, it's great to see it happening, but it can be frustrating for folk on the ground when they're told it's going to happen. And when's it happening? When's it happening? When's it happening? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Mayor. ER 252/24. Look, my boy, Loughney, the state of our waterways and the sewage running into our waterways is a major discussion. And I think it's reaching red alert for a lot of people. And that's why November 3rd is going to be a major day of action for clean water here in the north and in Britain. And I just wanted to make members aware that, Fergal Sharkey, who's very well known in these parts, has been leading a campaign in Britain demanding clean water and challenging polluters, challenging the privatisation of water and the squandering of billions of pounds by privatised water companies. And he is leading a major march for November 3rd. And on that date, there's going to be a rally here in Belfast as well about Maboy, about Loughney, about the state of our waterways, our rivers, and our burns. And of course, I'm sure people are aware that there was unfortunately a pollutant incident identified in Pennyburn, which NIA is looking into, and I think we'll all be eager to see what happened there. And hopefully that's not something that happens constantly, that it was only randomly picked up. But my asks are, Mayor, I would like us or you to write a letter to Fergal commending him and his work, campaigning for clean water. I think what he's doing there is fantastic. I mean, I think there's going to be a massive march in London on November 3rd, and there is many organisations right across Britain that are backing this. And I would also like the council to support the November 3rd protest, march and rally in Belfast that people will be going to probably from right across the north. It's going to be a significant day. And look, it was the last big wave of activism when young people, particularly young people around the world, put feet on the street and brought climate change right to the centre of politics. And I think that we're getting there again. And there's a big focus right now on water.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. I'll be happy to write that letter. So important to highlight the issues of clean water. So thank you for that. Okay, members, the next item is monthly Health and Community Committee held on Thursday, 10th October 2024, pages 95 to 114 for accuracy. Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Thank you, Councillor McDade. Any matters arising? Councillor Boggs?
Mayor, it's in relation to HC 236/23, and it's just on the deputation that came in from the Department for Education officials on the RAISE programme. And I think I made it clear at committee the grave concerns that I have and that we as a party have in relation to the current programme as it stands at the minute. And while the Minister is out launching it and having a great time taking photos about it, I think he needs to go back and reflect on the concerns that have been raised both at the Assembly and at consultation events such as the one that we had as a deputation on the Health and Communities Committee. And I have sent a proposal, a short proposal, to the committee section to ask that we write to the Minister to reiterate the same message that was reiterated as a committee or by myself at the committee even, in relation to the concerns that we have, and ask him to go back to the drawing board on it and use objective evidence rather than some of the evidence that he's trying to use for the scheme, which is now a scheme that he says is to target disadvantaged areas and areas of underachievement within schools. Meanwhile, he has included prep schools where parents are paying £5,000 for their children to attend, where, forgive me for being cynical, I don't think there's an issue with academic underachievement. Meanwhile, there are swathes of schools and swathes of areas that do have issues with social or with deprivation and with academic underachievement that are completely omitted. And the Minister up until now hasn't taken that on board, hasn't listened to the concerns of elected members or principals, more importantly, because there are principals of schools that are crying out, not just about their school being left out, but about the area that they come from being left out. And I don't know how he is still thinking that he can stand over it after that level of concern has been voiced, as I say, by elected members of principals. So I would ask people to support the proposal in front of us. Thanks, Mayor.
Do you have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Tierney?
Mayor, thank you, and thanks to Councillor Boggs for bringing this proposal. I think the concerns that Councillor Boggs raised at the committee were reflected by everybody. The only person, in my view, who didn't actually understand them was the guy who was given the presentation. With all due respect to him, we had major concerns as well. Some of the schools that are included across this district are some of our best schools, and I did question the rationale around suggesting that they have suffer from educational underachievement. There is big concerns with this scheme, not only from this council, but I've been speaking to people in my own DA who have got concerns about it as well. I'm glad to see that we are going to have some type of a proposal where hopefully we can get some sense and the people they relook at this and they make sure they're using it right. I have a major concern around the data that they used, and no one has ever come back to say, no, we're using the correct data. I question whether they are or not. I think that's something that needs looked at as well. So anything that we can do to get this scheme rolled out properly in the right areas, tackling the right stuff, would be welcome. And the SDLP are happy to support the proposals, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harkin?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, very happy to support the proposal from Councillor Boggs. I think that I liked the columnist Chris Donnelly's description of it. He said it was punishing poverty and rewarding wealth. And when the presentation happened in here, there was an element of it seemed like it was partly thrown together, and that this was described as a pilot scheme that could be adjusted. But I actually think that there's more thinking going on in the way that this is done, and I think that it needs to be addressed. I think that we have to, if this is designed to develop or to address educational disadvantage in deprived areas, first and foremost, then it needs to be, go back. I think that the minister needs to go back to the drawing board and take on the criticisms.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, members. The next agenda item is number 9, draft program for government consultation response, and I will bring John to speak about that.
Thank you, Mayor. Members, I'm aware of time this afternoon and the very substantial report before you. Our strategic business manager, Rachel Craig, brought this report together following the September council meeting where members considered and advised of their views in relation to the draft programme for government. It was subsequently also briefly discussed at Governance and Strategic Planning Committee, and in addition to Rachel's authoring of the report, considerable number of the senior team have also inputted into it. Just very briefly, members, you'll be aware that the document came out on the 5th of September. Section 2, the background, details broadly the key issues that are in the report, so are in the consultation document, so I'll not go through those. Just move very briefly to section 3, the key issues. So the consultation closes on the 4th of November. This draft is presented to you today as a potential corporate position of council, subject to your views and any amendments. As I said, it's based on the comments that we've received from you, the comments that we heard in various meetings over the last number of weeks and months. At the outset, we've put in the notice of motion that was passed in relation to tackling poverty at the last council meeting, and obviously majored on that issue. Within section 3.5, we talk about the 9 priorities, and section 3.6 summarises some of the key issues that we've highlighted. So we've taken the opportunity to position the city and district and the city region and the significance of it, particularly in respect of the commitment to balanced regional development and sub-regional development, and the importance that the executive is now attaching to that. We've provided lots of information with regard to that in the draft response, and we've also reiterated and highlighted some of the key projects that obviously this council and our wider city and partners have been striving to achieve and now beginning to move or have moved substantially, namely the expansion of McGee to 10,000 students, the A5 Western Transport Corridor Phase 2 of the A6, the remediation of the Maboy site, the A2 Buncrana Road, the sustainability of City of Derry Airport, the various issues associated with rail connectivity from the Phase 3 upgrade right through to the feasibility study of further halts and the link to Dublin, or the route to Dublin, rural infrastructure and connectivity. All of those have been brought out and highlighted in the draft response. So members said, I'm not going to go through it in detail, but just wanted to pick out those key points. I hope we have reflected the tone, content and nature of the debate that you had in the chamber. I hope that we've captured the vast majority of our significant projects, but obviously we very much welcome comments that you have today, very much welcome any emphasis of matter that you want changed or differently reflected, or if you indeed think there's been some omissions that we need to include. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Jackson.
Mayor, and thanks to John, and I suppose for the overview, and a particular thanks to Rachel for compiling the report. And I know this we anticipated as a school council, we anticipated a programme for government because we recognise that there does need to be better balance. There needs to be change. We need to see a government that's serious about delivering for this part of the island, and for far too long we haven't seen that. It's good, and despite this draft programme for government being out for consultation, we have seen, and it's been demonstrated, that this government, there has been a step change in relation to the Northwest. There's been a much welcomed renewed focus on the university expansion. There's been a renewed focus on council's role in relation to being an economic champion and having a more of a say in relation to the economic priorities for the Northwest, and that's all welcomed, and it's good to see that that issues in relation like the A5 or as we have discussed earlier today, violence against women and girls are referenced within the draft programme for government, and it's only right that we've referenced those as part of our response. Reading the response, I would see it as well balanced. There are obviously gaps where we would have liked to have seen the programme for government go a bit further, but there's also key priorities that are going to be game changer for the economic prospects of the Northwest and the city and district in particular. So it's good to see that our response recognises and welcomes that. So from our perspective, and I'm conscious that others may we're eager to hear other people's views, but from our perspective, what's being presented is something that we can wholeheartedly support and endorse as a corporate response of this council. But again, eager to hear other people's views. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any other members who would like to give a contribution to that conversation? Okay, members. Oh, Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, just very briefly, would agree with everything that Councillor Jackson has said. I think the response that this council has produced is focusing on strategic priorities that are going to make a lasting difference to people who live across this council area. I'm glad there's a focus on housing. Over 6,260 people on the housing waiting list, and the ambition of the Stormont executive at the minute is 400 houses per year, which is a joke when it's compared to the actual level of need specifically across this city and district. We're glad there's a focus on regional balance, but I just want to touch on one specific aspect of regional balance. One area where the imbalance is stark is in arts and culture funding. The Arts Council distribute grants on behalf of DFC on an annual basis. Belfast gets over 72%, and everybody else shares the rest. We've had the Arts Council in here, we've had DFC in here. The Arts Council, there's no willingness within that organisation to change how they operate to distribute funds on a regionally balanced basis. We have passed a motion, so it is council's corporate policy that the Arts Council should distribute funds on a regionally balanced basis. It's council's corporate policy that the minister should instruct the Arts Council to distribute funds on a balanced basis. We've asked that that's included in the programme for government. It's not there in the draft. Arts and culture isn't mentioned in that draft programme for government. So we think there should be some ask of central government about arts funding to ensure that it's distributed on an equal basis right across the north. Because if we don't mention it, it means we're accepting the status quo. We don't. So this is our opportunity to highlight again that we think the current system is unfair, especially to people in the Northwest. So we just think there should be something in there about arts and culture funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Yeah, happy to add that on. Okay. Any other comments? Thank you, members. So should I presume we are recommending that the draft is adopted as our corporate position. Thank you, members. Okay, the next item before we take a break is the item 10, delegation of powers to the Health and Communities Committee, and I will bring Philip.
Yeah, members, as you'll be aware, the council has received an application for an entertainments licence in respect of a concert to be held at Templemore on the 23rd of November 2024. Currently, members, if no objections are received in relation to an entertainments licence, the matter is dealt with by officers under delegated authority. If any objections are received, the matter is referred to the Health and Communities Committee for consideration, with ratification subsequently by full council. Timing in relation to this concert means that, in fact, a call-in period could not be concluded if the matter had to be dealt with at a council meeting after the Health and Communities meeting, and therefore members had suggested that the matter be granted, the Health and Communities Committee be granted delegated authority to deal with any licence issues that may be required for the concert on the 23rd of November 2024.
Councillor Jackson.
Mayor, thanks, Philip. I suppose from our perspective, we're fully supportive of the recommendation. This was a necessity to help facilitate the granting of or a decision being taken in relation to the granting of an entertainment license. And I know that there's a lot of false information that's floating around in relation to this, and there's quite a lot of confusion in relation to it. But I think what the report is laid out, and the fact that this paper has come into council demonstrates that council have been doing everything that they can do to facilitate this promoter and to explore the possibility of an event taking place. It's extremely disappointing that the promoter decided, from my own personal perspective, as a representative of the waterside, it's disappointing that the promoter decided to change his or her plans in relation to the venue. I know that there's many people in the waterside that were keen to see this, and I know there's many people that have been angered when they hear the area that they live in being described as a PUL community, and being described as somewhere where Irish language isn't welcome. That's caused a lot of hurt, and that's caused a lot of anger. But it's certainly not the views of this council. And I'd like to reiterate that point, that this council fully has been, and the fact that this paper is being brought before this committee, this council has been keen to facilitate a process to allow a decision to be taken in relation to this. And we do encourage events and major events taking place in not only Everington Square, but St. Connell's Park as well. So I look forward to more events taking place in this council area, whether it be Templemore, whether it be Everington, or whether it be St. Connell's Park. And I hope that that in future acts that are of the caliber of this particular act will be welcomed by everybody within this chamber, and I have no doubt will be welcomed by many people within the waterside. So I, in behalf of Sinn Féin, say that we fully support the recommendation, and happy to propose that that this council delegate authority to Health and Communities decision, or committee to take a decision on an entertainment licence for this particular event. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And on behalf of the SDLP, I'm happy to second the recommendation that we do allow delegated authority to the Health and Communities Committee to make this decision. I think, and I want to thank officers for the work that they have done around this. I know, and I've been talking to officers directly to try and find out where this was at, and I know that they put on a massive effort to try and facilitate the promoter. They put on a concert of, as Councillor Jackson says, with a band of this calibre. I think the public handling of this, not by council, has been dangerous and disastrous for this city and district as a whole. And I don't think that that's in any way good at all. And I think that people should reflect on that. I would worry now that promoters who are looking to bring concerts to this city and district will now factor into their mind, particularly if it's in a council venue, what the DUP will think of this particular band. And I think I'm glad to see that we're having this meeting, because this meeting and the workings of this meeting and the layout of council process should have been followed in the first place. First and foremost, I think that's an important point to make. Should have been followed in the first place. But second of all, it will also send out a message that no political party, not one single political party, has a veto on what happens in any council venue. And that's in the opinion that I got, and that's the impression that I got listening to representatives of the DUP speaking about this band. And it completely took the whole focus off a band of this calibre coming to the city and district. We need to realise and understand that promoters, particularly for Derry, sometimes get bands at late notice, and we have to be able to adapt to that scenario. We have to be able to accommodate them on a quick turnaround. And I know officers work really, really hard to make sure that we could, but I think the handling of this has pointed out the need for a dedicated open air music space within this city and district. What we have and what we currently use is fine, but it doesn't always work. You know, Ebrington is limited in terms of the number of events that we can have in it. St. Colum's Park, if we're being honest, is a running track. It's not an open air venue. And then, as I say, you have to factor on the opinions of elected representatives who come from that area, which should not be a factor at all unless it's coming through the committee and following the correct council process. So I think we need to do, whilst I welcome the report and I'm happy to see delegated authority go ahead, I think we need to do more thinking around where and how we're going to run music events of this type, and how we can allow officers that quick turnaround time to try and facilitate acts like this, where we're not playing politics with it. We were at a briefing. I asked a specific question of the officers in terms of how many valid objections had we received, and I was told there is about 5. 5 objections which were genuine, could have been addressed through the committee and through working with officers, but they weren't allowed to because representatives ran on the radio foil, frightened the promoter, and he has now switched the venue. But are the DUP saying it's okay to have this event in Templemore? It's okay to have it in the city side? That would be a serious concern for me. And I think that we need to roll this out through the council process, which should have been followed, because the way that it's been handled, Madam Mayor, and the fact that the process wasn't followed correctly, there is no need or no call for a council licensing process, because it's not been followed, and promoters are being scared out of having events in council premises in the waterside for no apparent reason, and we're not following the right process. So what's the point in the process? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. And just in regards to the comments that have been made, I myself went on the media in regards to this here, and I certainly made the comment that there was a lot of neighbourhood PUL communities in the waterside. Now, this did follow a process. There was an application made. There was a notice in the paper for a licence People objected and they had the right to do that. Now, we have a right to voice our opinions, and the majority of the people that contacted us was opposed to this being in a shared space within the waterside. Now, that same process will be followed wherever they put in the application for, and the people in Templemore have the right to oppose it or agree to it, whatever it is that they want to do. But the people made representation in the waterside. Now, no threats or anything was put to this promoter. He decided to move the venue. He decided on the facts that was put in front of him. Do you mean? So it's nothing to do with us. We don't have the veto powers to basically say this is not going to be in the waterside and therefore, move it. We don't have them kind of powers. It went through the process. The promoter decided.
Point of order.
The promoter.
Point of order.
Councillor Tierney, let her finish and I'll come back to you. Let her finish. Thank you.
Promoter decided to move this, and rightly so. Now, personally, I don't believe that these acts should be in any kind of council space, but that's my personal opinion. Do you know what I mean? Not anybody else's opinion, my personal opinion. But I will say there was a comment made that we were against the Irish Language Act being, or the Irish language being played in the waterside, and that is absolutely, I have not heard anybody make reference to the Irish language. I have made reference to the lyrics. They might be spoken in Irish language, but I don't, it doesn't bother me whether it's in Irish, English, or whatever language it's in. It was to do with the lyrics that was in some of their songs. So, I mean, you might want to put this as a DUP thing, but I can tell you now, the people on the waterside objected. There might have been only 5 legitimate reasons for objection to the licence, but there was many more. And there was a good relations issue that they felt that they so strongly enough that they forwarded on their representations in regard to it.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Tierney, I'll give you to respond.
Thank you, Mayor. Can officers confirm that the promoter of this event changed the venue and the date of the event before the entire process was completed, therefore confirming that the process was not followed? And I believe that the promoter done that because he listened to DUP representatives on Radio Foyle and decided, I'm not going to get this here. I need to do something to save this. And as Councillor Boyle just said, they spooked them. And that's exactly what they done. And I didn't say that the DUP have a veto. I said they need to get the message that they don't have a veto.
Okay. Councillor Tierney, I'll ask an officer to respond to that. John?
Do you want me to jump in?
It's a question on the floor.
I think we've just spoke officers.
This is one of those moments, isn't it? Sorry, not being flippant and being absolutely serious. My understanding is the process was initiated as normal, and during the process, the promoter withdrew his application and submitted a new application for an alternative venue. Those are the facts. Stephen, could you correct that if it is incorrect? Yeah.
Displaced.
The process was initially followed but not concluded.
Thank you, members. Could I go to Councillor Donnelly, please?
Chair, look, I think this is unfortunate. I don't agree with every lyric that Kneecap sang. I don't agree with every piece of but I went and seen their film and I enjoyed it and it was entertainment. I don't agree with everything in it, but when this started unfolding, it reminded me of the lyrics of a Panger Band song called The Ulster Way. And if anybody's familiar about that, they'll know. I think the DUP, the DUP in the past in here have voted against the abolition of zero-hour contracts. They've voted against issues within the gay community and that. And I think they're completely out of touch. See, if anybody in the Unionist community don't think there's going to be young Protestants from the waterside at the kneecap, then they're seriously deluded. I think this is a dangerous situation, right? Because what is a shared space and what is not a shared space? And if we start this and it ends up for tit for tat, do other people object against the next performance over there? Does people object against loyal order marches going past their home? I think they need to be very, very careful here and work with people rather than just constantly trying to cause tension. I think that it's counterproductive. Thank you.
Alderman Carrigan.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in. I think we're getting to the stage, and I'll use the terminology, we're comparing apples with oranges, and we'll use that. And in regards to it here, because there is a totally separate, and Councillor Donnelly knows that, in regards to loyal order parades or anything else, that's through the Parades Commission. That is not within the remit of this council. Representation can be made by any individual or grouping in regards to that, but he did mention parades, so orange heart the parades, so that's not within our remit. Within our remit was licensing, and as far as I recall from the various meetings that were had and the discussions and the phone calls that were made, the process at St Colum's Park failed because there was not the allotted time. And that was, as far as I was aware, there was the 28 days consultation. We needed passed at Health and Community Committee. You needed the passed in at full council to get it verified, and you needed to allow 7 days for the process of a potential call-in. And the time scale was physically not there. So it didn't matter if that process had been followed fully to its completion. It would have been past the date. So going on about DUP lamenting about this or somebody speaking on the radio or anything else, another aspect, which I was informed, was that there were at least 30 objections. Whether they were valid objections or not, there were at least 30 objections that were issued in the first week of the public consultation. That's a 28-day period. So you don't know how many you may have had by the end of that consultation. The promoter decided to move it. For whatever reason, the promoter decided to move it. Even if the full process had been followed, it still wasn't going to take place given the time scale, and that was what the officers had stated, and that was the recommendation, and therefore the promoters moved it to a further venue. So that's where it is, and changed the date. And that was my understanding in the entire process. I don't believe if the promoter has decided to move it, or if the promoters changed the date, that's grand, but I don't believe whatever anybody spoke about on press or on the radio or anything else would have had a bearing on it. So that's just my understanding of it, and maybe officers can confirm that, or officers can say that I'm wrong in that regard, but I believe it was a time scale issue, that the time was not there from the 1st of October application to a date on the 2nd of November for the event, and it just logistically was not going to work. And that was my understanding from the meeting. The promoters moved it, but as I say, that's the understanding, and it's nothing to do with who you said what in my view on it. It was not going to work. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Carrigan. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Gallagher, please. Councillor.
Mayor, invite me in.
Councillor, please.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. Mayor, I, like a number of others, I agree with this proposal that's before us. I think that that a lot of the stuff that health and committees deal with is a matter of subjudicial. You know, whether that's entertainment license, street closures, gaming license. And as the DUP member outlined before, there may be parades, but a lot of street licenses are issued with regards to that as well. And we also heard earlier on this meeting today that the potential that we have for the film industry to come into this city and district, and having delegated authority by this committee that it would go to if there was recommendations, then that delegate authority should be able to be made on the spot to the committee and enacted. That's what should happen if we are to maximise the opportunities that has been highlighted and realised earlier on. So I think that we should act on that and improve this, not only on this occasion, but across all our licenses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I think that this event should have been allowed to go ahead in St Colum's Park, like all our events. I think that this is about what people perceive to be the politics of kneecap. And obviously they're a band that promotes the Irish language, which I think is a positive and a good thing. But kneecap's not easily categorized in terms of what they represent and what their politics are. And if people go and study them more, they'll probably figure that out fairly quickly, that it's far more complex, that they see themselves in the punk tradition of parody and everything else. And that's why they will get an audience that is not from one community, because people are interested in what they're doing, what they're saying, the way they're saying it. And look, to be honest as well, they are on the platform, using their platform to talk about a genocide in Gaza, which I think is a positive thing. And a lot of young artists are doing that from right across all communities. So look, I'm glad that there is an option for them to go and do this in Templemore, and I hope that that can be progressed, because I think that this city deserves big acts. But I think that the scenario for the promoter was one where there was a concern that the event itself could be targeted. And I think that that is very, very, very unfortunate. I think it would have been a minority of people, but there was a group of people that was being whipped up. And I think very clearly no one would want to see that to spoil the event, endanger people going to it, and turn this into a kind of ugly scene rather than what it should be. So I think that what the DUP have done has been damaging and dangerous. And I think that we have to make sure that what they've done doesn't become the way that everything is treated in this city now going forward. But look, I commend council officers for making sure that there will be an event, and that hopefully there will be no problems with that going forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Point of order, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Understanding Order 16, I propose that the actual recommendation in front of us do now be voted on.
Do not be voted. Right. Can I bring Councillor Logue in? Well, she has a right to speak. No? Right.
So it's basically the end of the debate.
He wants to end the debate.
He wants to propose it, so.
Yeah, so it's been settled.
The motion is that the question, check that the question being
So we can work over it and we can.
should be seconded.
So we'll need.
And if you're
Okay, members, I will need a seconder for your proposal. Okay, seconded. Okay, members, in fairness, I think we have discussed this issue substantively, so I'm going to ask for a vote. I'm sorry, Councillor Logue.
Just want to say that that's the first time that anybody didn't
Get a chance to speak.
because of just whatever. We're really sad that now. I know, not good enough. I just wanted to make a comment anyway, that was all, but
The proposal has to be voted on first.
Yes.
Before.
Yeah, so we'll vote for the proposal and then I'll come back. Is that all right? Yeah, we vote for the proposal.
His proposal has to be voted on.
Yeah.
If it's passed.
We vote for
then we-
his proposal and then we make a decision after that. Is that? One thing I wouldn't want to do is to silence any member and to get any member not make a view. So,
If it speeds things up, the SDLP are voting against Alderman Hussey's proposal.
okay. So let's vote for the proposal and then we get back. Is that okay? Because I wouldn't want to silence any member. So the SDLP are voting against the proposal,
Are we
voting
for the recommendation or?
his proposal.
All right.
His
Okay,
proposal,
well,
recommendation.
Okay, well, Sean Flane's voting
Yeah.
against that.
Yeah, the proposal to stop the debate. Yeah. Okay,
Sure, fans for there. Show hands for.
Could we show hands for? Speak for the proposal? No, this is a.
Proposal is that the vote be not
Members,
taken.
this is a standing order issue, and there's been a move to propose to end the debate and a seconder. So to move forward, we need to vote on that particular proposal, and then we come back to the decision. Okay? Okay, so we have people online, so could anybody online who is voting for or against, please put it on the chat? And members here in the chamber, put your hands up if you're voting against.
Jason
That's
Barr
a
here.
quicker way of doing this.
So
Okay,
false.
so the proposal falls. Okay, Patricia.
Mayor, whilst I accept that, can we stick to what the actual item is?
Yes.
Because we moved away from it.
Thank you, Alderman. Councillor Logue, please.
Well, this is certainly on that item. And I just want to say I will be very, very brief. At that meeting, we all heard the reasons why Alderman McMorris felt that this event should not go ahead in St. Colum's Park. And the main reason that was cited was noise. And then obviously the lyrics could offend people. I, for one, found it just amazing that when Stephen Gillespie sent an email out to advise us of the change of venue at 11:32, that no less than 13 minutes later at 11:45, the same alderman was able to say she was quite happy with the proposal. So for me, you know, that speaks volumes regarding her original concerns for that venue being held at that particular location. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councillor. Alderman McMorris, you had a chance to speak. I'm sorry we had your views. I will not allow you to come back on the floor. I'm really sorry for that because you have given us a comprehensive response, so it's no need of coming back to that again. Councillor Moni?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just engaged in this debate anyway as a waterside councillor and someone who spoke at the informal briefing which we had about 2 weeks ago into this, and somebody who's actually been kept abreast of it so far. I've heard the contributions, but when I say I suppose what they say really is I made my views clear at the informal briefing and I stand over them. But the disappointing thing about this is I think from day one, and I think it should be recognised and acknowledged, is that I think my colleagues at the DUP sitting beside me here, they set their face against this ban coming to the waterside from, I think, very day one. I think their position was, you know, fervently set out on that position. We were discussing here about process and things like that there. And I think Councillor Tierney had the proper context where even though we would have ran the course of the application process, my simple question is, if the Health and Communities Committee had sat down and taken a determination when they heard all objectors who come in, will there be 5 or 100 or 200 or 2,000, whoever it may have been, and we sat and had that committee, would the DUP, and I'm asking a genuine honest question, would they have called it in no matter what? That is the question that we're actually, it boils down to. If our committee had sat there, took all the soundings, heard objectors, heard people coming in with good faith objections, sat there, as Councillor Logue said, on the proper grounds of context of nuisance, i.e. noise and things like that there, would our colleagues at the DUP have called it in? On what grounds would they called it in? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Moni. Okay, members, to move this forward now, let's go to the main vote. And get you to come forward.
Is it unanimous?
Is it unanimous? The vote is Question is very clear, to delegate the powers to the Health and Communities Committee. Everybody happy with that? Okay, now there are dissenting voices, so we're gonna get a vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Cook? Alderman Guy?
I'm voting for the proposal, yeah.
For the proposal, thank you. Alderman Hussey?
Or
Alderman Carrigan?
Abstain, John.
Alderman McMorris?
Stay.
Councillor Jason Barr?
For.
Councillor Lillian Barr?
For.
Members might be in a situation that everybody else is voting for. So,
My button on my one work, I'll abstain as well. Alderman Cook.
Alderman Cook, thank you. Mayor, all present voting for, apart from 3 abstentions.
Thank you, members. So the recommendation passes. Okay, 15 minutes break, and then we come back. Thank you.